All right, strap yourselves in because we are going deep into Invincible Season 3. I'm already getting pumped just thinking about it.
Yeah.
For those who haven't seen this show yet, imagine a world full of superheroes,
Mhm.
but instead of the typical clean-cut heroes, Invincible gives us a much grittier, more violent, and
Yeah.
morally complex look at what being a superhero could actually mean.
Yeah, it's a world where saving the day comes with a cost, like a big
Oh,
cost,
absolutely.
and where it gets hard to tell who's a hero and who's a villain.
Totally.
Season 3 really ramps all that up.
Oh, for sure. It picks up right where Season 2 left off. Remember that crazy cliffhanger with, well, I won't spoil it, but remember how Season 2 ended?
Oh, yeah.
The stakes are huge this time, and Mark, our teenage superhero who is the son of, well, the world's most powerful superhero,
Right.
he is in way over his head.
You know, what I find really interesting is how this season really dives into Mark's identity crisis.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's constantly struggling with being both human and superhuman.
Yep.
And all the pressure that comes with having to save the world. It's
Yeah.
not just about fighting bad guys anymore.
Right.
It's about facing his inner demons, too.
It's like he's trying to live these two separate lives.
Yeah,
And both of them are demanding everything from him.
totally.
You know what impressed me, though?
What's that?
Even with all the crazy action and, like, world-ending threats, the show doesn't forget about its other characters.
Right?
We see them grow and face their own challenges that are just as intense as Markers.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that makes Invincible so good.
Oh, yeah.
It gives these supporting characters the depth they deserve,
Right.
and it makes the world feel much more real.
Huh.
For example, you'll see, well, I don't want to spoil anything, but let's just say one character really goes through it this season,
Yeah.
and in ways you might not expect.
I totally agree. It's like every character, even the ones you might not think much of at first, they get a chance to surprise you. And speaking of surprises, this season takes some really bold storytelling choices. Like, it makes you question everything you thought you knew about these characters and why they do what they do. There's this one part where, and again, I don't want to spoil it, but it really makes you think about what's right and wrong.
Yet, those are the kind of moments that make this show so gripping. It doesn't shy away from tough questions or morally gray areas.
Right.
You know, it makes you, the viewer, confront your own ideas about good and bad and think about what you would do
Yeah.
in impossible situations.
It's like the show is saying, hey, there are no easy answers here, and being a hero can mean making tough choices.
Exactly.
And speaking of things that leave you speechless, can we talk about the animation for a minute?
Yeah.
Because, wow, the action in this season is just incredible.
It's breathtaking, honestly.
Yeah.
They took what they did before and just cranked it up. The way the characters move, the
Yeah.
energy of the fights, and how creative it all is, it's mind-blowing. There's this one scene, I won't spoil it, but let's just say it's visually stunning.
Yeah.
The kind of scene you just can't forget.
It's like they took the comic book pages and brought them to life.
Yeah.
But it's not just about the big explosive fights, though.
Right.
What really amazes me is how they use animation to show emotion,
Oh, absolutely.
to build tension,
Mhm.
and even give you little hints about what a character is feeling inside.
It's like a whole other language.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
use everything, camera angles, how the characters move, even tiny facial expressions, all to tell a story without words.
It's like every frame has meaning, something new to discover.
And for those who've read the comics,
Yeah.
the ones Invincible is based on, you'll be happy to know the creators have done a fantastic job of staying true to the original story,
Okay.
but they've also updated some things to make it relevant for today's audience.
Yeah.
They found that sweet spot between honoring the source material and bringing something new to the table.
And it's not just about updating the story or the look of the show. They've also woven in modern themes and ideas that make it even more thought-provoking.
Mhm.
It's like they're using this world of superheroes to
Yeah.
reflect our own society and the issues we're dealing with today.
It's smart, you know. It lets them explore complex issues in a way that's both engaging and easy to understand
Right.
without losing any of the fun.
Yeah.
That's what makes Invincible so special.
Yeah.
It can make you think, feel, and get excited all at the same time.
It really is a masterclass in storytelling, blending those epic battles with real character development and ideas that make you think. But we've been praising it for a while now, and as much as I love it, I think it's fair to acknowledge that it might not be for everyone, right? Nothing's perfect, even a show as awesome as this.
You're right. Invincible Season 3 is great in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of things that some viewers might not love. For example, The pacing can feel a little uneven, especially in the middle of the season.
Yeah, I get that. It's like they're juggling so many different storylines that some don't get as much attention as maybe they should.
Right.
And with so much going on, it could feel a bit overwhelming if you're not already familiar with all the characters.
It's definitely a packed season, full
Yeah,
of information and action. It kind of assumes you've been following along closely,
right.
and if you haven't, you might get a little lost.
And of course, we can't forget about the violence.
Right.
Invincible has never been afraid to show just how brutal these fights can be.
Yeah.
And season 3 takes it even further.
Hmm.
Now, personally, I think it serves a purpose. It shows how high the stakes are and how powerful these characters are. But I can see how some people might find it a bit much.
It's a tricky balance, for sure.
Yeah.
The violence is definitely a big part of Invincible,
Mm-hmm.
and it creates that sense of danger.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's not for everyone. Viewers who are sensitive to that kind of content might want to be careful.
Good advice. Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about something a little lighter. Did you know that some of the actors who do the voices for these characters
Oh,
also had other roles behind the scenes?
Really?
It's like they just couldn't get enough of the Invincible world.
that's so cool.
It really shows how much they care about the project. Some helped with the writing.
Wow.
Others lent their voices to background characters. It adds this personal touch that I really like.
That's awesome.
And for those who love to spot details, keep your eyes peeled for Easter eggs. Season 3 is full of little references to the comics and callbacks to earlier seasons.
Oh, I love that.
It's like a treasure hunt for fans.
Good buffet.
Speaking of catching things, I think it's time to zoom out a bit and talk about the bigger picture, the overall impact of Invincible, and what it means for superhero stories in general.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think Invincible is doing something really unique.
Yeah.
It's not your typical superhero story. It's more like it's breaking down the genre, showing us what it would be like to be a superhero emotionally and psychologically. And it really makes you think about what's right and wrong.
It's like asking, what if Superman was real and had to deal with the messy, complicated world we live in?
Exactly.
And, one of the things that keeps me coming back to this show is how it shows us that even superheroes are vulnerable.
Oh, yeah.
Even with their superpowers, they still have fears, insecurities, and doubts, just like all of us.
It's what makes them relatable.
Right.
We see these larger-than-life characters dealing with loss, betrayal, the weight of responsibility, and it reminds us that even the most powerful beings are still human at their core. It's a powerful message.
Definitely. It reminds us that being a hero isn't about having special powers or wearing a costume. It's about the choices we make, the sacrifices we're willing to make, and how our actions affect the world around us. And Invincible doesn't sugarcoat any of that. It shows us the real messy side of what it means to be a hero.
It challenges us to think about good and evil in a different way, to deal with tough moral choices, and to consider what power really costs.
Yeah.
And it does all of that while being super entertaining and visually stunning.
It's a show that keeps you on the edge of your seat wondering what's going to happen next. But it also stays with you after it's over, making you think about those bigger questions and themes.
Absolutely.
Now, before we wrap up our deep dive into Invincible Season 3,
Yeah.
I want to ask you something.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the animation, the action, the mature themes, but have you ever thought about how this story would work in a different medium?
Oh.
Like live action, do you think Invincible would be as good with real actors and practical effects?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah,
And it's one that fans have been debating for a while.
right.
On the one hand, animation gives the creators so much freedom. Freedom that you just don't get with live action.
Oh.
They can create crazy characters, insane battles that break the laws of physics,
Yeah,
and fantastical worlds without being limited by reality.
that's true. Imagine trying to recreate those fight scenes with real people.
Right.
It would be a logistical nightmare, not to mention super expensive. Plus, animation lets them exaggerate and stylize things, which fits perfectly with the over-the-top nature of Invincible.
But live action has its own advantages.
Oh, yeah.
It feels more real, more grounded.
Okay.
And with the right actors and director, you could really capture those emotional moments,
Right.
those subtle expressions that bring the characters to life in a way animation can't always do.
I see what you mean. There's something about seeing a real human face showing those emotions, the
Yeah.
vulnerability of the pain, that can be really powerful for the audience.
For sure.
It's like you experience those emotions more directly.
Exactly. It's a trade-off. Do you go for the spectacle and freedom of animation or the raw emotion and realism of live action.
Right.
It really depends on what's important to you as a viewer.
Yeah.
Both can tell a great story,
Yeah.
but they do it differently.
Well said. And you know what I love about this discussion?
What's that?
There's no right or wrong answer. It's all about perspective, about what connects with you personally.
Exactly.
And that's what makes Invincible so great. It starts these conversations, these debates about how stories are told and how we experience these fantastical worlds.
It makes us think critically,
Yeah.
challenge our assumptions,
Mhm.
and appreciate the artistry, the skill that goes into creating these stories, no matter the medium.
Absolutely. So if you haven't seen Invincible Season 3, I highly recommend it. It's a wild ride,
Oh, yeah.
full of twists, amazing animation, and characters that will stick with you.
Definitely.
And if you have seen it, let us know what you think. What were your favorite moments? What surprised you? And would it work as a live-action adaptation?
Share your thoughts, your theories, your questions. We love hearing from fellow Invincible fans.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Invincible Season 3. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those superhero senses sharp.